Hi, my name is Wande. In 2021, I left Nigeria for the UK. That's just a fancy way of saying that I jackpot. Yes. It is 2025 and I'm now back. No, not the I just got back kind of back. Like I'm back. And I know that this sounds crazy. Like people are literally leaving and I'm coming back. Like it makes no sense. It's a long story and I'll tell you all about it. I'm starting a series on my channel called Inside the Abroad Life, where I talk about like the realities of living as an immigrant, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, the ugly, the crazy, everything, honestly. Mind you, these stories and these experiences that I'll be sharing will be based on my experience traveling as a student. So there are different kinds of visas that you can go to the United Kingdom with. So my experiences bordered on the fact that I went as a student. So if you're on a different type of visa, maybe a spousal visa or a global talent visa, your experience might be different from mine, might be similar, might be different. I just want to put that out there so that when you're watching my videos, you can understand like the perspective that I'm coming from. I think the first question anyone would want to ask is, why did you go through all that trouble to leave if you know you were just going to come back? Firstly, I never thought I was coming back. Okay, not like I would never come back to Nigeria. I would come back, but coming back to live and to work permanently, I just thought that it was out of the picture for me. So in my mind, getting on that plane, I was gone. In my head, if I'm coming to Nigeria, I'm only coming for maybe 30 December or weddings or, just to come and flex. That was my whole plan. So before you say, oh, I did not plan on coming back, I actually wanted to run away. If you live in Nigeria, you've been to Nigeria, you probably understand why anybody would want to run away from the country. Honestly, with Nigeria, it feels like you can't catch a break. There's always something. Like after surviving this one, they'll bring another one. And that's how it's been for like as long as I can remember. There's always something going on. There's always something. If it's not false scarcity, it's something. If it's not strike, it's something. Like it's just always something, And now the one that's topping the chart, cost of living crisis, which is happening everywhere in the world, to be fair. But in Nigeria, oh my gosh, it is a lot. So there's so much that you deal with every day in your life as a Nigerian. So if you woke up and said, I want to leave Nigeria, I think that people would understand. That's just what I'm saying. The first time I thought in my head that maybe it's a good idea to leave Nigeria, I think was after COVID. I was just like really dissatisfied with everything. I was stressed at work. Nothing was making sense to me anymore. I quit my job that I was doing before COVID. I got another one. I could only stay at that job for 6 months. I was living in Aja and going to work in Lekki Aja traffic. Lekki Aja traffic dealt with me, so I was just really tired, plus, the NSAS movement that happened. I was just heartbroken. And I think that was the first time I felt like a sense of hopelessness that, what, I think Nigeria, Oti law, that was how I felt. Like I was so heartbroken. I could not understand why, institutions that are meant to protect us were harming us. It was a scary time for me. So I think those two factors put together just made me feel like I need to leave this country. I need a break. And I started putting out applications to different schools so that I could leave the country. Another thing was I'm very big on self-improvement. Like I had always welcomed the idea of doing a master's abroad. When I was in ULAG, I would go to different conferences, seminars, workshops, all those things that they do, and they invite like people to speak, and teach. Every time I would be wowed by a speaker. Like every time I would listen to a speaker and go, oh my goodness. And I would go read up about them. I would notice that there was that abroad factor. They either lived abroad for a while, they schooled abroad, something abroad. There was always something, that related to them leaving Nigeria at some point in their lives. So I thought in my head that there must be something that going abroad does to you or does for you. There's nothing wrong with Nigerian education, but I just really like the idea of having that exposure of like living and working somewhere else outside of Nigeria. Another thing is, if you go to Unilag, you have two options. Go back to Unilag for a master's, or you travel abroad to go do your master's. Like there's no two ways about it, because other schools literally come to Unilag for their master's. So if you're a graduate of Unilag, you would not want to go to another school. You would want to go back to Unilag. And for me, I studied education, and I knew that I didn't want to go back to go read education in Unilag, because it'll be the same lecturers, the same facilities, the same environment. I just felt like nothing would really change. And after my experience with like my BSc, where I really, put all my effort into getting very good grades, and then graduating to see that, the grades didn't really translate into much, outside of school, right? I thought to myself that if I would go and do a master's, I won't do a master's just for the sake of it. I would do a master's for the experience. My set was 2021/2022, right? I think that set and the set prior to that, that was the people that went for masters during COVID. I think that those set of students were like the best behaved students that went to the UK, because after my set, there was this influx of, students coming into the UK and just really making so much noise on social media. I could not understand it. I'm like, what is going on? I'll open my TikTok. This is how to breathe in the UK. This is how to walk in the UK. This is how to talk in the UK. This is how to cross the road in the UK. And my favorite one at that time was, I had to come to the UK in just 2 months, in just 2 days. And I'm wondering, are you now in immigration? Do you now work for, the UK embassy? Like, what is giving you the boldness to be making statements like this? They were just so noisy. They were noisy about everything. They were noisy about the whole visa sponsorship thing. They were just really noisy bunch of people. And like, fast forward to 2025, like we can see like the result of like all of those actions. I think that, going forward, we need to be more careful with the way we use social media. Do you think that the people that you're talking about, the government that you're talking about, do you think they don't see all of those videos, right? So I think Nigerians should learn from that, and just, I'm not saying, oh, don't share updates with people, or don't, tell people about opportunities, but like, let us do it in like a smarter way, right? Because now they've made everything so tough. They've really increased the requirements, and it's not just the way it used to be. When I first got to the UK, there were like tons of sponsorships everywhere. All of a sudden, this same sponsorship, people started paying. I started hearing that people are paying large sums of money, and even getting scammed and all of that. So I think that going forward, we should just be mindful of how we use social media and the kind of information that we put on social media. Like, the world is watching. We're not the only ones on social media. To be honest, I wanted to create content as well, but not that kind of content. I used to watch this girl, Chidera Peters. She had a YouTube channel then, where she had like lots of helpful videos for like students, immigrants, and I watched her videos before I traveled. Even when I got to the UK, I still watched some of her videos, because she had videos for, travel prep. She had videos for, things to do when you land in the UK. She had videos for school, helpful videos. So those were the kind of videos I had in mind. But I think that when I got there, and it just kind of dawned on me, like, what was happening and how, everything was going. I was just like, you know what? Content waits first. Let me see where I'm going. Let me even know what I'm doing first before I start, advising people. And that's why I didn't really create content, because I was just not in the space, and I don't want to come online and say, what I don't know, or what I do not really believe. Do you understand? So I was like, you know what? Content, take a back seat. Let me try to understand this system. Let me try to navigate the system and see if I can really give like helpful advice and like honest advice to people. Looking back, after reflecting, I can say that the whole process of getting my visa was the easiest part of my UK journey. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, because we're Nigerians, that green passport is not exactly the most desirable kind of passport, right? There's so many restrictions, we go through so much just because we have that passport. Hopefully we can change that in the future. Right now it is what it is. But I think because it was a student route, it was quite easy. All I had to do was get my documents. They'll usually tell you what they want from you. Get your documents together. You have to do an interview. It's called a CAS interview. So it's a CAS, right? CAS means confirmation of acceptance of studies. It's something that the school gives you to tell the embassy that, you have been offered admission on a course, and they'll usually do that interview to see if you're a good fit. So they'll ask you things like, why do you want to come to the UK? Why have you chosen this course? Why did you choose our school? And they'll also ask you like, how do you intend to pay the fees? Just basic questions like that to find out if you're actually the right fit for the school. Once you pass that, you get your CAS and then you apply. So I think it's because it was a student route that it was easy. So looking back, getting the visa was actually not hard. I left in 2021 and COVID was still a thing at that time. So I remember I had to do COVID tests. I had to fill like some paperwork. I had to, quarantine for 10 days once I got to the UK. It was a lot. If you are an international student traveling outside of Nigeria for a master's, make sure you research your school. Pick a school that actually cares about you. I'm so grateful for the school that I chose. BCU. Shout out to BCU. My time at BCU was amazing. They were very supportive. The communication was top notch. And there was never a time where I felt like stranded. Even when I had like questions or doubts, there was always someone to reach out to. There was always someone responding to you. So I never felt alone. I know a lot of international students who did not have that same experience. They would send emails and wait for days to get response. As an international student, you're already in a foreign land. You're already going through a lot, trying to settle down, trying to understand the culture, trying to just, fit in. You are going to have questions. So you need to apply to a school that actually cares enough to, be able to answer those questions, and that actually cares enough to give you channels and platforms where you can interact with people that will help you. BCU was the first school to give me an unconditional offer, not requiring IELTS, which makes a lot of sense because I still do not understand why a Nigerian from an English-speaking country colonized by Britain, right, with a first degree taught in English language is required to write an English exam to prove that they can speak and write English. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, someone help me, make it make sense. I just feel like it's another money grabbing scheme. A Nigerian going for a second degree should not be subjected to writing IELTS. I don't know. That's just how I feel about that issue. Because now that I have lived there, I can tell you for a fact that your English does not need to be stellar for you to work and to live in the UK. There's people who can barely speak English, who cannot even spell, that have like good jobs and they're doing very well, right? No shade to anybody because English is not the only language in the world. So it's not a problem. Back to what I was saying, I think that schools need to realize that, it's already a daunting experience for an international student, living in a country where they're not familiar with anything. So as much as you can, try to provide that support, helpline, whatever it is, because I promise you, we will have questions. I remember my mom coming for my graduation at BCU and she was like, oh, everywhere feels so welcoming and friendly. And I'm like, yeah, that's just the vibe at BCU. Like, it's such a friendly school. Guys, they made me an alumni. And I only went there for like a year. I get like emails, invited to stuff, even though I'm in Nigeria. But, I'm considered as BCU alumni. I think that my time at BCU was the highlight of my experience, living in the UK. A lot of the process that I did was done quite secretly. I mean, are you even Nigerian if you're making travel plans and you're telling everybody? I doubt. No, it's an unspoken rule. Just don't talk about travel plans. Anyway, I told some people, I told a few close friends. I even had like a tiny send forth with my friends. It was like just a little dinner, The day that I got the email that my documents were ready to be collected, I just went there, first thing in the morning. I just collected it from the person attending to us. I walked outside. I ripped the thing open. I ripped it open and I checked and I saw that they gave me my visa. which was the first visa I ever got. Prior to that time, I had never been outside Nigeria, not even to Ghana. So my first ever visa was a visa to the UK, which is a really nice way to launch a passport. You know, it's cute. When I got my visa, I still had some things to do, right? So I was doing last minute running around. And a friend of mine at that time was like, why are you running up and down? Like, you have a visa, you're supposed to just go in one room and lock yourself until the day of your flight. And I just found that really funny. Anyway, I packed my things, started getting ready for my trip. I didn't carry food stuff, which to some people was weird. But my mom told me that everything is there. Like, I didn't just understand people that were putting like palm oil, gari, yam inside their bag. Me, I'm thinking that, even if you say, okay, it's better to carry, but it will still finish. So you still have to buy from there. So why would you now have like excess luggage because you're carrying beans, you're carrying yam, man? Like, to me, it just did not make sense. Getting my flight ticket was such a hassle. For some reason, I could not pay for it online. I had to go to British Airways office. I remember. The reason I really wanted to go with British Airways was that I just wanted a plane that would carry me straight from Lagos, Nigeria, land me in Heathrow in the UK, right? Because I didn't want to deal with the drama of missing a connecting flight or losing my luggage. I didn't want any of that stress. The flight was full. I had like a middle seat. It was so tight. The food wasn't great. It was just there. I was able to, get to the UK in one piece. Or before that, Nigerian airports, like, what is happening? Murtala Mohammed International Airport, what is going on in that place? Why is that place like that? So rowdy. At every point, someone wants to collect money from you. Like, what is going on? I think that the topic of Nigerian airports, we'll talk about it another day. But really, it's not, I don't understand. Once I got to the airport, the ones I could give, I gave. Once I did not have anything to give anybody, I started telling everybody, I don't have anything, you're on your own. I don't have anything to give anybody. Just let me get on that flight, sit down and leave this country. I was able to ignore like a lot of things because my mind was just on where I was going. My flight was for 11 p.m., I think, and I got there in the morning, early in the morning. Getting to Heathrow, I was just like, all these automatic doors, escalators, and everything is just working. Even before stepping out, I was just so impressed. So the first time I realized what passport privilege was, when you get off the plane, there's like a path you keep taking, just to lead you to like immigration. And once you get there, you'll see UK and EU passports, and then you will see all other countries. And obviously, the line for all other countries was just long and moving very slowly. And the one for UK and EU was just like breezing through. I sat beside a guy on the plane who spoke Yoruba once, like on a call. So in my head, I'm thinking he's probably like me, he's probably JAPA in as well. Only for this guy to just walk straight to the UK EU passport line. And I was like, hey. I was like, there's really levels to this thing. So I got to the immigration officers, they asked me questions, I answered everything, they did whatever they needed to do. And then they stamped my passport. Poof, welcome to the UK. Oh, that thing sounded like music to my ears. Because that's what everyone wants to hear. You don't want to hear stories. You just want to hear welcome to the UK. So I went, my mom was waiting for me, we came out of the airport and we took a bus to go home. In the bus, I was just looking outside the window the whole time. Like, I can't believe it. I'm finally in the UK. And then, there's this thing that happens where you now start to listen to like your background changes. Your background noise changes. Like, you're hearing all this accent, and it almost feels like you're in a movie. There were many times that I felt like I was in a movie, that was the period where I just got there. I just felt like I was in a movie. It was so different. I was so impressed because I'm like, how can a country be disorganized? Like, that was, as I was looking through the window, I'm like, everything is so organized. Like, I was so happy. I was like, yay, I'm finally in the land flowing with milk and honey. Or so I thought so at that time. For the first 5 days, guys, I was just sleeping. I was sleeping off the stress. My mom was looking at me. She was like, are you okay? I arrived in London, but my school, like I said, BCU, is in Birmingham. So I had to travel from London to Birmingham. So I started, preparing for my journey to Birmingham. Anyway, this is where I'll stop the story for today. I have more episodes coming. If you are someone that is planning to travel abroad via student route, and you just really want to know, you want to know the real deal, you're not trusting all the things that you're seeing online, make sure that you subscribe to this channel, you turn on your notifications. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.